Hi there, my name is Tony Dalton and this I'm holding is a 1/350 scale Russian battleship. Crossed it just scouring the internet for something to do and thought it looked totally different to the modern battleships, but at 1/350 scale I was surprised how small it was. It's about half the size of the modern type battleships, particularly when you compare it with something like the Hood, which was one of the largest battleships ever built. As you can see, there are lots of auxiliary boats, rowing boats and cutters in there, and it's amazing with etched brass fittings how small some of the parts are, including the aft guns on the steam cutters.
The brass edge fittings come with the kit, or do you have to buy them separately?
The brass edge fittings do actually come with the kit in this particular case.
And what sort of glue do you use to stick them onto plastic?
I normally use super glue, not very thick, medium viscosity, but by putting the super glue, say, on a piece of cardboard and spreading it out, then you can just dip the ends of the etched brass rails or whatever it is you're going to glue, and then with a pair of tweezers place them in position. The etched brass parts are so light that by just placing them in position they'll stay in position prior to the super glue actually curing.
And is the wooden deck, is that a separate, you know, the wooden sheets?
Yes, you can buy wooden deck separately for a certain number of models, and I always think it's much easier than trying to paint. What I did choose to do was at the rear, which I shall now take, is a little cover. Now that normally isn't part of the boat, but it's to gain access to the on-off switch, to be able to switch the thing on and off.
So this is a fully converted plastic magic, as in an RC converted plastic kit?
That's correct. This shows the internals of the Russian battleship. We have here at the front end the radio receiver. Then there's a LiPo battery which provides nominally 7 volts, and M-Tronics 10 amp speed controller, and then 2 small electric motors. They run on about 3 or 4 volts each. On-off switch, and tucked right underneath there, beneath the aft gun, is the servo that operates the rudder.
Can you tell us what size motors they are and where you got them from?
Motors I purchase probably from eBay, or certainly online, and I just buy whatever I fancy at the time.
Yeah. And the servo's that a micro servo, again from eBay?
Well, yeah, a nominal micro servo. Yeah.
And how long does this battery last for if you're on the lake in full, you know?
It will last me longer than I'm prepared to sail.
Yeah. Especially on cold weather.
Yeah, and the advantage of LiPo, A, they're small and compact, and the other thing is they never run out. Well, they do, and they retain their charge.
Mm-hmm. As opposed to lead batteries that...
Well, lead acid is obviously well out of anything of this size, yeah. And ordinary nickel hydride batteries, they're fine, but they're physically a bit bigger.
I mean, do you know how much weight all that is with the
no,
battery?
I've never weighed it. I find that in fact with warships they tend to be broad hulls, and they take a fair amount of weight in the hull, and they don't need any ballast, if anything. Problems in building the unit, well, there's no real problems, it's just a bit small. I purchased this because I just fancied it. It was different, and it's 1/350 scale. Surprisingly, it's physically half the size of the other battleships I've made, and that gives you an idea of how small these particular battleships are.
Well, as compared to 1 to 350 scale, say, British battleships.
That's right.
Yeah.
It's almost half the size, and they've got this what they termed a tumble home design, and it's like the old wooden battleships. It curves in at the top. Most conventional battleships sort of come up the sides and they're straight up. These curve in. The theory was at the time was with the cannonballs being fired at each other, they would hit towards the top and then just bounce off because it's curved.
Sure.